Hey guys, it's Michelle Taryn from Paleo, and every week I come on live from my kitchen to show you how to cook something. And normally it's something dinner related, but today we are not making dinner, we are making dessert. We are making my grain-free paleo dark chocolate and cherry scones, which are a recipe that's been on my blog, Paleo, for a while. And they're a classic, and I say they're a classic only because I don't make desserts that often, but when I do, I make sure they're really tasty. This is a great recipe for holiday gifts if you're into DIY gifts. So this is something that you can make. And do not break that whisk. That's a really nice whisk. So this is Ollie, my younger son, who pretends to help me out in the kitchen. And my older son is behind the camera. He's like, moving the camera, and he's asking questions. Oh, dude, you gotta open up your computer.
Come on, man.
And ask me questions. Here, get on Facebook and turn off the volume so people don't hear that. And then behind the scenes is Lauren Wade. He is going to be typing answers to all the questions that you guys type because I can't see them. But for everybody who participates in the live broadcast, either by asking a question or just simply saying hello, one of you is in the running to win a Nom Paleo swag pack, which includes our latest and greatest one and done 2019 wall calendar, which comes with fun stickers. This calendar is filled with all recipes, all paleo recipes that can be made in one pan or one pot. And there are lots of stickers. You also get some Nom Paleo socks, which you cannot buy anywhere. I'll throw in a doll and some magic mushroom powder, so it'll be a really fun little holiday gift for you. So again, I'm going to be making my grain-free.
The Nevo's being weird. Like
it's all.
Working? I think it updated or something. So it's all different.
Okay. Well, it's okay. You don't have to zoom or do anything weird. Okay. So again, we're making paleo dark chocolate cherry scones. What I have here is some almond flour, and I just bought this almond flour at Costco. It's 3 cups, but I also have the measurements in grams, so you can be like me, and I just, instead of dirtying a bunch of measuring cups, I just use my handy-dandy kitchen scale, and then I measure it until it's 300 and I think it's like 60 grams. And so to this, can you plop these in for me? We're going to add some baking soda, which is our leavening agent to make them, rise a little bit. And then a little bit of salt. All right. And so then, here, I just want you to mix this really well. But don't go crazy because then it'll fly all over, okay? But you want it to be mixed really well. So the baking, here, let me do one. And then you can do the rest. Alright, now you can continue. And then if there's stuff that gets stuck in the middle, just gently tap it out. So those are the dry ingredients. And I actually have 4 tablespoons of butter. You don't have to use butter. People are like, butter, it's not paleo. That's okay. If you don't tolerate butter, you can use like chilled ghee or chilled coconut oil. And I think chilled palm shortening also works. But you want it really cold, and I cut it into little tiny pieces. You can also freeze 4 tablespoons of, which is half a stick of butter or ghee, and then you can shave it on a grater. Because you want really cold, small pieces that you're going to work into the almond flour. So I'm going to just crack 2 large eggs into a separate bowl. Are there any questions?
Not that I've seen, but it's also hard. It's mostly people just
saying hello?
checking in, saying hello, and asking what we're making.
We're making my paleo dark chocolate and cherry scones.
Someone asked about freezing almond flour. Like, how do you feel about that?
Oh, I think it's fine. The package tells you to store it in the freezer or the fridge, so I normally keep it in the freezer or the fridge. These scones, once they're baked, actually keep really well in the freezer, and that's a really great way to keep them. And you can just, heat them back up in a toaster oven, and they are just as good as new. Okay, so to these 2 eggs, I'm going to add some apple cider vinegar, and that's just to react with the baking soda to help with the leavening. I'm going to also add 2 tablespoons of honey. And then, that's funny. Ollie likes all these memes that say weird things. So when I say the word thick, he's like,
Okay.
All right, and so then a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then,
I wanted to smell that.
oh, it's okay. And then to this, we're gonna whisk this together. Okay, that's good. Ollie, I'm gonna be adding the butter in a sec. But you're just gonna whisk this together until it's all mixed well.
Someone asked if they could use butter instead if they prefer that, but
No, I'm using butter.
yeah.
And I know butter's not paleo, but neither are scones. People are like, this isn't paleo. I'm like, yeah, this is like a treat. But I tolerate it, and it's better than eating. I can't eat regular wheat flour scones, so this is a really tasty alternative. It's healthier than a lot of other options. It is. No, you can't have piece of butter. I was asking to give you a piece of butter. You can eat some from. No, this has to stay cold. Okay, so 4 tablespoons here that I chopped up really small. Stop.
And could you use maple syrup instead of honey?
Yeah, you can.
Also, what's your opinion on flax eggs? Like, could you use those?
Don't eat it. You gotta put it in here. No. If you want some butter, you can get some from the fridge.
What?
Alright. A flax egg I think would work. I haven't tried it, but I know that it works in a lot of baked dishes. So I think it would probably work here. Hold on. I'm gonna do this part.
Aww.
So you can either use a pastry cutter, which I don't have, or you could do like I do, and you just chopped up the butter, the frozen butter, into small pieces, and then you can use 2 forks to work it into the flour. And another way, it's another tip that I learned, I think, on Serious Eats. You can have your half a stick of butter that you freeze, and then you can just grate it with your grater, and then you also get super tiny pieces of frozen butter. And you don't want to use like softened butter, because the cold butter actually helps make your scones light and fluffy, and they do taste really good. I really like these. And you're just working in the butter. When you use 2 forks like this, it's better than using your fingers, because your fingers can warm up the butter and make it all melty. But this is good. This is, you're just kind of smushing down with the fork to smush the butter pieces into the almond flour. And you want it so that it's kind of like a grainy consistency to the flour.
So what kind of almond flour do you use, and what texture is it?
So this is the super fine blanch. This is just the one I picked up at Costco. It's whatever, here, it's the Kirkland brand, because I picked it up at Costco yesterday. I also buy Honeyville. I've also used Bob's Red Mill. Those all seem to work, but they're all a little bit different. I think they're better these days. When I first started paleo, there used to be a big difference in the almond flours in terms of like how fine it was. And so it used to be really important that you bought a certain brand, but these days I think that you can buy pretty fine blanched almond flour from a bunch of people. So you can look at it here. All the butter has kind of been worked in with the fork. There might be some big chunks. Here, do you want to help? So you just push down and you smush the big pieces of, and you can use both forks. Yes. Yes, good job. Okay, so this is the wet ingredients right here. Again, there are 2 large eggs, some apple cider vinegar that will react with the baking soda in the dry ingredients, vanilla, and honey. So it's not very much sweetener. There is sugar in these baking wafers. So you can, you need 3 ounces of dark chocolate, depending on how like paleo you are. You can do 80% cacao or higher, or if you're going to be gifting it to people or have kids that don't like 80% cacao chocolate, I I'm using these 74% cacao. They're these little organic chocolate wafers from Guitars. Again, I also just bought that at the store. I think I bought that at Whole Foods. But you can also buy them. Guitard is actually a chocolate company that's local to the Bay Area.
So, could you use a food processor to mix in the butter?
Oh yeah, totally. That's actually probably better. That's how most bakers would do it, but I just don't want to dirty it.
So, if you don't like cherries, are there other kinds of fruits that you would recommend, and do these freeze well?
These freeze well once they're cooked, yes. I haven't tried freezing just the dough, but I bet you could do that too. But it definitely freezes really well once it's baked. If you don't like cherries go really well with chocolate and almonds. That's why I like it all together. You can also use some dried cranberries, or you can just leave out the fruit if you don't like it. Okay, so I'm just going to pour this in to the dry ingredients. I'm going to use a spatula to mix it together. I'm making my Paleo dark chocolate and cherry scones. It's a recipe on my blog. And Lauren will put the link up. And then you're going to get a pretty wet dough, and that's okay. If it's too wet, you can add a little bit of almond flour. Or if you're worried that it's getting too warm, you can chill the dough for like 30 minutes and then you can form it. But we don't have time for that right now. Okay, so to this I'm going to add 3 ounces of chocolate. You can also have like a chocolate bar that you love that you can cut into small pieces. I think this is a 1/3 cup of dried cherries.
Oh, I thought those were raisins.
No, they're cherries. They taste good. So you're just going to mix it all, and so everything is distributed. And you're going to preheat your oven to 350 or 325 convection. I always like convection because I feel like it cooks more evenly. So everything I think is well mixed. So you get a cookie sheet or a baking sheet and a piece of parchment. We're just going to divide this into 2 balls, and it is kind of a wet dough, but okay.
Did you answer if there are other fruits that you would recommend instead of cherries?
I just said cranberries.
Okay.
Or just leave them out. If you don't like it, I don't really love raisins, so I won't say raisins, but
I like raisins.
Do you think that you could just like flatten these out and make them like cookies?
oh yeah, they almost seem kind of like cookies. So you just make 1 ball, and then I'm going to just smush it, and then I'm going to cut them. This is kind of soft. You may actually want to, like when I made a batch earlier, because I have some done, I just chilled it for a little bit.
And what brand of cherries did you buy?
I just bought, again, it was whatever was at Costco. They had some organic dried cherries. They have sugar, but it's okay. This is a dessert, so I'm not stressing out if there's a little sugar. There's not a ton of sugar, and there's not a ton of cherries in here. But you can definitely buy fruit juice, sweetened, dried fruit. Okay, so these I made into 4, I divided the dough in half, and then I'm going to slice these into 4, but I'm also going to form it, because it's a little wet, you can, I'm going to take one, and then I'm going to make it like a little triangle, and then smush it until it's about 3/4 of an inch tall. And it's okay. It's totally okay that it's soft. They totally turn out, and I'll show you when we're done.
Are they a little more like cookie dough texture rather than scones, or is it more of like a flaky, like?
Oh no, they're more kind of like a
crumbly
cookie dough. It's it does taste like kind of a. It doesn't quite taste like a cookie because it's not as sweet. That's why I call them scones. But there's definitely cookie aspects to this. And I think the almond flour makes it so that it's, it's a softer crumb than a true scone. I'm sure like someone from the UK would be very upset that I call these scones, but I like them, and I'm gonna call them that.
That's your reason
That's
for
my
the naming.
reasoning.
I like it. Okay.
I like it. Sorry. All right. And so you have all 8, and you should make sure there's plenty of room on the sheet pan so that they can get kind of browned on all sides. And they do grow. Like you're like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm gonna put it right on the edge, or I'll stick them right next to each other. They do grow because you have some baking soda and then some acid, the apple cider vinegar, to react to it. All right, so these are nice and pretty. I'm gonna pop these in the oven, and it is soft and pliable, and that's okay. But you can still form them nice. Oh, and you can measure that they are a little bit less than an inch tall. Right? Can you see that? So I'm gonna stick these all in here. I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm gonna pop these in the oven, and then I'll show you guys the final thing.
That was quick.
Yeah, see, super fast.
So could you cut it smaller, and would that affect baking time?
Yes, if you cut them smaller, you probably are done cooking faster. So this takes about 20 to 25 minutes, but if you smush them like thinner, it'll take less time. If you cut them smaller, it'll take less time. So just keep an eye on it, and you know, let your nose be a guide, because you can totally smell when they're close to being done, and you want them nice and brown, top and bottom, and to be cooked through all the way. So I'm gonna pop this into the oven. Kitchen timer till 11 minutes. All right. So, oh geez. So what we have here is we have some that I already made earlier today. Dun, dun, dun. So they do turn nice and golden, and they are nice
You
and
just eat them with your hands?
yeah.
Oh.
Here, you want to try it?
Why are you tapping?
Try it. Because they should be crispy on the outside, and this is what it should look like on the inside. So the dough part itself is not super sweet. Oh, you ate that one?
Mm-hmm.
Here, do you like it?
Oh, good. I like the chocolate.
I know you like the chocolate. Here, on, you try it. I love these. They're kind of more cookie-like than scone-like, but because the dough isn't super sweet, I call them scones. And you can make them big.
It's like lightly sweet bread
Yeah. I
with
love
sweeter
it.
stuff.
So that was it. Super fast. They do soften like the next day, so they are best the day of. But if you aren't going to eat them right away, I would actually just stick them in the freezer, and you can reheat them, and they're delicious. And I'm just going to eat. I already ate one earlier.
Oh yeah, we need winners.
You have a question?
Any more questions?
I'm not.
Is
I really like the combination of almond, cherry,
someone asked
and
affect?
chocolate.
I never know which one to use, and I don't
Which
know what
one?
that means.
What?
Affect?
Affect?
I don't know what that means.
Oh.
See, the issue with Facebook is that it makes it so that it always goes down to the pinned comment, so I can't like stay up and like scroll.
Stop
and it
thinking! You ate that one.
What was good about old Facebook is that they used to let me like make it be like half of the screen be the questions,
No,
but now it's
you
like
can't just pick the chocolate out.
tiny.
You can eat some here. You can have the part with the chocolate. Sure.
Oh, I think someone I think what they meant was like, is it okay to like cut it before baking?
I did. So I cut and form it into those little triangle scones.
Do you think you could make it like a cakey thing? And
So
then
yeah,
just
you
cut
could
it
probably make like a giant, like those cookie, those
Pizza
pan,
things?
yeah, or like the cookie in a cast iron skillet. But I think this just did you steal that? Where'd it go? I hope this makes it, I gotta stop. These are really good.
out. Anyways, our winner today is Kathy Kristen.
Da da da! I will
So-
personally pack your little swag pack myself. And I'll throw in a lot of fun stuff. So congratulations, Kathy. Thank you all for tuning in. I have a new Instant Pot recipe that's going on the blog sometime this week. It's my Instant Pot version of my Southwest Cowboy Chili, which is a popular recipe from our first cookbook. But I've transformed it into an Instant Pot recipe. So that should be on the blog before this weekend. So you guys, if you guys are impatient, you can find it this weekend and cook from it. But I will demo that next week. So thanks everybody and have a nice week. Bye.